Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Hello, 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 amigas, and welcome to Amiga Handle Your Shit podcast. I'm excited today because I have a trailblazer here in front of me on Zoom, and we're gonna have an amazing conversation. I'm excited here because I get to interview this powerhouse of Latina, and I am excited for you to hear everything that she has to tell us, how she became the first Latina, first woman to be the CEO and president of the LA Area Chamber of Commerce. Amigas, this is a huge deal. So I'm excited to have her here, and we're gonna get to know who she is. We're gonna talk briefly about her upbringing, because that is super important to give you perspective. But amigas across the world who don't live in Los Angeles County, this is a big deal. And you're going to learn a lot. You're going to get a lot of tips here, a lot of hacks on how you can be a trailblazer as well. So, amiga, oh my God, welcome, 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 Maria Salinas. How are you? Thank you so much for being here.
I'm very well. Thank you so much for having me. It is such a pleasure to be here with you. You know, you're a trailblazer yourself, and just bringing these stories, and I'm just so happy to participate and just really honored that you would pick me to do this. So thank you.
Oh my God, the honor is all mine. Okay, I mean, the first thing I like to know, and I know amigas always love the fact that I give them like perspective, because we are not who we are today, who we were born, you know, because a lot of us come from different types of families. And, you know, in order for us to understand you, who you are, the woman today, we need to go back to where you were born and who your family is.
Right. Gosh, you know, that is such a great question. And I'm glad you're starting that way, because, you know, a lot of times when I talk to people, I have to remind them, like, I didn't start out here at the top. You know, I have a long professional career of, you know, almost 35 years in the profession, not all in the chamber world, but definitely in the business world. But before I got there, you know, I am, you know, the daughter of immigrants that came to this country just looking for a better life for their family. My mom and dad came from Mexico, from Jalisco. When they married, they moved here to Los Angeles because they thought, you know, this would be the great place to build a home, create a family. And I'm sure, like many parents who come here with that idealism of, you know, what the United States could offer. And over the years, as I've spoken to my parents as an adult, you know, just hearing that spirit of, you know, just wanting a better life, you know, is really great. You know, my mother, her mother raised her as a single mom of like 6 children. And so you could imagine how hard that was for them growing up and really providing for the family. And so they all worked at just a very young age, and it was just work, work, work. And when they came here to Los Angeles, I remember my grandmother, my aunts working in the garment district. And sometimes when I was in school and I'd have a free day, I wanted to go to work with them and they would take me. And I remember going to those old buildings downtown. Now they're lofts, these beautiful lofts. But back then there were these old buildings, and I couldn't believe the conditions that they worked in, just stacked upon each other. They both worked in for a sewing manufacturer. Just seeing the filth of where they worked and the conditions that they worked in just really got me, even as a very young age. Now, I remember thinking, wow, you know, they work from the crack of dawn till like the end of day, and this is their job, you know, so much that they put up with. My father, you know, again, came to this country. He has a 3rd grade, 4th grade education in Mexico, but came here with a lot of determination, hard work ethic. And he did everything. And his profession is actually doing car upholstery work. And when he came here, he'd work in garages, he'd repair cars in the upholstery work related to them. And during the summer, he would take me with him and I'd help there in the little office in the garage to just kind of, you know, do filing. I thought I was being like a secretary, but I was like filing little documents for him, creating file labels and things like that. I must have been like 12 or 13 years old. And one day I went with him, they had to drop off the papers to the accountant. And I always speak of this day because it was the one time that I walked into an office, like where somebody worked on the inside of a building in an office setting. And that struck me because, you know, my family, while they were working in either a factory or in the garage, and my other aunts worked in the fields, I never knew anyone in my family that had a professional career of any kind. And, you know, coming to this country, you know, being the oldest in my family, I have 3 younger brothers. Even though my parents didn't know about the educational system, they just kept saying, "Te tienes que educar." You have to educate yourself. You have to work hard and get an education. And even as I was doing that, and my parents, you know, it was so difficult for them to help navigate that process, that education system. When it came time to go to college, they were the first ones that said, yes, you have to go and get educated, but you can't go to that university. It's too far away. It's 30 miles away.
Oh,
I'm a graduate of Loyola Marymount University. I grew up on Northeast LA, which is in the Lincoln Heights, Highland Park area. But going across town to the west side was just a foreign territory for my parents. And I couldn't go my first year because it was too far. And I ended up going to school locally, you know, which turned out to be a great experience as well. But it was a whole year before my parents realized, oh, wait a minute, there is a differences in universities. And it was through the help of a friend where my father finally said, you know, I think you should go. That's so far away.
right. Oh,
So,
yes.
you know, so I've had those experiences growing up that, you know, being the first gen student, being the first professional in the family, being the one that helped interpret for my parents in 4th and 5th grade. And I've also seen what they endured, the pain and the suffering that they endured by, you know, maybe institutions or people that were not welcoming or open for someone that didn't speak English or that wasn't from this country, the discrimination that they faced, the name calling. So I grew up with all of that. And I think by the time that I got to the workforce, it was very much as part of my DNA to embrace the people, the immigrant community of Los Angeles, and just really believing that they had so much to contribute because just like my parents had worked hard and given back.
Absolutely. My goodness. I think that your journey, your educational journey is kind of like mine, because I actually worked with my family. They were little, you know, at that time, they were they're still entrepreneurs, but you know, we were working for the businesses. So I remember as a little girl going to Mayan restaurant in Orange County, which is one of the first restaurants that my parents bought. And I remember, like, as a little girl, 6 years old, cleaning tables. You know,
Yeah.
I've been working since I was a little girl, but that's what you do. You help the family and you get exposed to working conditions. And you got exposed to the working conditions in these factories. I mean, now looking at it through these lens, I'm sure it is very different now.
Absolutely. And even when I think of my experiences growing up, I mean, I grew up in a very traditional Latino household. My parents loved that I was, a good student and all of that, but definitely, I wouldn't be able to go out on my own or things of that nature, right? And so a lot of it was really, even understanding American culture and kind of, being the young Latina that oftentimes didn't get to go to certain events or activities because it was just not something that we did in my home. And then, growing up also with the deference, growing up with deference to, the elders in the family, or just, quietly waiting your turn, because that's what we all did in a Latino household, especially for the women. That's what my mother did, my grandmother. So growing up like that, for me, going into the workforce also meant, how do I unlearn some of those habits? Because while they have been good, traditional values that I have, sometimes that doesn't quite translate into the business world. And especially entering a field in the finance field where I was, back in the day, one of a handful of women, not a whole lot of women in the organization. I was in a professional accounting services firm, and definitely, I don't know that I ever met a Latina in my field for maybe the first 5 years, 6 years or so, that was ahead, that I could look to and say, I want to be like her. And those things matter. Being able to see, what a future could look like, those things matter. We talk about it today with kids, to see the young girls, to see themselves in science fields, to see themselves in, all sorts of different non-traditional areas, that we know those are very important and that they matter.
Absolutely, they definitely matter. And you're absolutely correct in terms of we grew up with this deference and this respect. And yes, obviously we should and we ought to respect our elders. But if there were circumstances where you're like, that doesn't seem right, you kind of had to bite your tongue. And in today's society, I mean, it's not the same. I'll say that.
Yeah. I remember once being in a business meeting, and, I remember, and this was already further along in my career. So I had already been in business for about 20 years or so, and remember walking into the meeting, and, hearing this conversation, but it just seemed like it was a really fast conversation about, we should do this, we should do that. And when I stepped away, I went to the executive and I asked him, I said, is this, is this, you want my contributions here? And he very, without a doubt, just said, that's why you're here, so that you can contribute to that. And, it almost had to hit me like, yes, of course, that's why I'm here. Why am I even asking that question? But I think that for somebody like me, it took me a long time to get comfortable with my own voice and to say, okay, stop that, Maria. You're just as good. You belong in that room. You have good ideas and you can share them. So if you're going to take that seat, make sure that you're sharing your voice and that you are participating in that. So, for me, when we talk about being in the room and making sure that we're in the room, I'm always quick to say, and take it one step further, make sure your voice is being heard in the room. Don't just take up the seat.
Right. Don't just take up the seat and space. Make your voice heard. I completely know what you're talking about. I know that I had a situation when I was attending USC, and back then you didn't see Latinos. You didn't see that many brown people. And to even raise my hand, I mean, I was sweating bullets to do that. And it didn't take, it took a long time for me to get to where I'm at right now. Right now, I'm very comfortable speaking. I speak my mind, but it took a long time. And this is the thing, amigas, we as mentors can like have these amazing conversations so that our little amigas get to realize that their voices must be heard and that we do have value and that we can do it here in America.
Absolutely. And in any time I am given the opportunity so to participate in like mentor programs, because I have a student right now at UCLA. I have another student that is at Berkeley through various programs. Like I will never say no to those opportunities, because I just really believe that, you know, you always hear like, what would you tell your 20-year-old self? Well, there's a lot of 20-year-olds out here today who are very much experiencing what I did at a 20-year-old: self-doubt, you know, am I worth? What is my worth? Do I belong here? And I just, you know, love telling them, get over it. Get over it, you know, and it takes courage, but courage is free. And you can, you know, just be the person that you are. Do not question yourself. And, you know, one Latina at a time. I'm good with that.
Oh, I love that. One Latina, two Latinas, three Latinas, four,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, yes, courage is free. I love what you said about that, because it really had to take a lot of courage for you to step into your role as the president and CEO of this amazing LA area Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
So tell us, because that's huge.
So let me tell you about that, because even while I've had an amazing career, you know, moving from professional services, I worked with the Walt Disney Company for many years in management roles and took on a lot of really great responsibility. And again, I was always through that entire career, like, you know, do I really belong here? Do they know that it's me and I'm here? Always that self-doubt. And when I left the workforce to raise my children, I started my consulting business. And that's when it really hit me that, look, okay, it stops with me, because I'm heading up this organization. I'm hiring people. I ended up having the opportunity to be a founding organizer for a community bank. Did that for almost 10 years. I became chairwoman of that bank. And even when I got elected to become chairwoman, even though I had the most experience on the board and had done all these, you know, had served on many of the committees, had worked with our shareholders, the regulators, I had just a great body of work. When it came to deciding who the next chairwoman would be, I was the first one to say, okay, which one of you guys are going to do it? I never thought it would be me. And when we went into that meeting, within the first 10 minutes, it was like, I nominate Maria to be the next chairwoman. And then someone said, I second that. And it was done that quickly. I had never thought of myself for that role. I went into that meeting thinking about everybody else in that board. And I remember talking to one of our lead directors after that. And it was almost like he was trying to convince me, like, why wouldn't you have thought of yourself? You're the one that chaired this. You're the one that led this initiative. You're the one that was the, you know, face on this program. I mean, he went through it in such specificity that I kind of like, you know, said, why didn't I think of myself, right? And again, it goes back to that experience of always questioning ourselves. You know, sometimes we're our own biggest barriers.
Yes.
So I think that really taught me a lesson that I just needed to cut that out, you know, that I really needed to stand firm on the foundation that I had built, that I needed to recognize my worth, and that, you know, not let it hold me back. So 3 years later, when the chamber opportunity came up and I had a meeting about that, again, that first meeting, I was just completely exploratory, but when it led to a second meeting, that's when I thought, oh, there might be something here. You know, when I think of Los Angeles, I think of this community, I think of how I grew up as the daughter of immigrants, and how this economy is of immigrants that really drive Los Angeles. I felt that I had a real connection to this region, to Los Angeles. And that was the first time that I went for it and just thought, I'm the person for this role.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
so as I went through that search process and I did all the various interviews, there was no doubt in my, sharing of who I was, that this role was something I could do, and I could do it, very well. And having that confidence is what I think catapulted me into the role. And I lead with that confidence because I'm a believer that that I can do it. And it's okay to say that I can do it.
Yes, yes, you can. And that's the thing. I think we always, like, at least I know for my and other Latinas, we get tripped up. We get that imposter syndrome.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Me?
Yeah.
Me,
Yeah.
the immigrant daughter, like, and it is, yes, why not you, right?
Yeah. And so now, when I carry out my work, it's almost like being in the driver's seat in my outlook. So this is what I mean. I'm very attuned when people speak past me, because it still happens. I still walk into rooms where I might be one of a handful of women, that still exists. There are still, areas where we need to bring more cultural competency to the conversations that we are having. We need to recognize that there's a diversity of people and not just one, set of group, that we're a very rich community because of that diversity. And so I pick up on those things, and I pick up on things that I know I need to sometimes maybe remind others that no, we got to be reflective of our region, and whether it's a small committee we're trying to form, or whether it's how we want our board to look. We have to reflect the Los Angeles region, and that's very important if we're going to say that we represent the region.
Absolutely. And especially here in Los Angeles, I mean, we're a melting pot.
Yes.
We have every culture. I mean, that's what I believe. Like, we have every culture here. See, you know the statistics.
We do. And it's an international city. So while we're have a diversity of people, there's no doubt that this is a global city. We have over 100 consulates that are based here in Los Angeles, which is just shy of how many are in New York and in Washington, D.C. So there's people from all around the globe that are residents here in Los Angeles. And I think that's a really exciting part of the city.
Oh, absolutely. And how exciting to be the first woman president of this Chamber of Commerce. I mean, really, I commend you for that, because I mean, it was like, what, 134 years or something like that?
Yes, 132 years, I believe.
Oh my God. Do you sometimes pinch yourself, like, you know what I mean? Like, wow, really? Did I do that?
It is a tremendous amount of responsibility, because I believe that the LA Chamber it's a business advocacy organization, but I believe that the Chamber is more than that. Our vision is a thriving region for all. And I think that really speaks to the heart and soul of the LA Chamber, that we know that, yes, we need strong business, but we also need strong communities. And we need communities that can thrive and that they can, have good housing and transportation and education systems. And that only through us being part of one collective ecosystem can we make life better for all. And I'm really proud of the fact that that's our North Star, right? That's a vision that we can keep in mind. And I work with a great team at the Chamber that I love the way they do their work because they're so passionate and they always remember, okay, it's a thriving region for all. So if I'm working on workforce or if I'm working on, environmental sustainability or, technology issues, whatever it is, do we have access? Do we have barriers that we need to overcome? How do we make sure that everyone can participate in an economy that is growing? Because we will grow out of this pandemic.
Oh, absolutely. I have no doubt about that. And what a leader you are to lead the way. I'm really, seriously, I'm truly honored. I love what you're saying, thriving vision for all. So what do you see next happening for the Chamber?
Well, I think definitely for next up is, how do we get beyond the pandemic, right? We're starting to open up. We're starting to see the relaxing of rules and regulations, masking, however you look at that. And there's a really a great ability for us to emerge stronger than before. You always hear things like that. We want to be better than before. And I think that's so true. There's a lot of truth to that. When you think of the investment that the federal government has made into society, I'm just going to say society because billions of dollars that have come in for economic relief, for infrastructure, for so many things that impact our daily lives. Are we going to be responsible enough to take those dollars and make sure that it's a transformative future? That I think is a really important question. And so you need organizations like the LA Chamber of Commerce to be there and saying, okay, how are we using these funds? How are we making sure that we're growing an inclusive economy? How do we make sure that we're not leaving anybody out, that we can have maximum participation in the workforce from individuals that may be marginalized? And, it really goes deep in terms of the things that we see in, walking across the street anywhere. Right now in Los Angeles, homelessness is a huge issue. How are we going to make transformative decisions with the resources that have been allocated to those efforts? So lots of important things for us to address. We look at 2028 when Los Angeles is going to host the Olympics and the Paralympics. And, we've got to be a shiny city, but not a shiny city because we just put everything under the rug. A shiny city because we're real collaborators, that we're truly a region that is thriving for everyone.
Oh, yes. I love that. I can't wait for this 2028 to happen. I mean, I'm already seeing, the changes, the airport. I actually live really near Loyola. So when you're saying that you went to Loyola, I'm like, oh yeah, it's up the street. And, LAX, the changes that are happening, it's incredible.
All of that, the infrastructure, so things like the airport, things that the transit systems that are being built and put in place, a lot to address infrastructure needs. I think that's the lens we need to all have, whether you're an academic institution, whether you're, a small business, a startup. If you're here in Los Angeles, how do we want to shine in 2028? And how do we want to use that as a pivotal moment for the legacy that's going to live on even beyond the Olympics, right?
Oh, yes. Oh
You
my
know,
God. I love that. I mean, I'm looking forward to it.
yeah, yeah,
And I'm glad that you are like at the forefront of this happening. So, and so incredible that you're here with us at Amiga Handle Your Shit to tell us all about this information, the amazing work that you're doing, your vision that it's a thriving vision for all, not just a few, for everyone here in LA. And I love that. As we're getting here at the tail end of our conversation, I always ask my amigas if they could provide one or two tips on how she can handle her shit.
I thought about this one because I think you can't sweat the small stuff.
Yeah.
I know that sounds so like basic and simple, but in the role that I have today, I have a lot coming at me, and makes for long days, makes for intense conversations, and you really have to really lead through all the noise. I'd say stay focused. What your vision is, what your mission is, stay focused on that, and don't get distracted with the noise. Don't get distracted with the small stuff. Because if I pull back and start focusing on, someone felt bad, or dealing with something that is not, on point with what my core work duties are, I'll be all over the place. I'll be distracted. I'll be unfocused. And so it's don't sweat the small stuff, but it's also stay focused on your plan, and if you don't have a plan, get a plan, put the plan together. That's easy to do. Where's your passion? Where do you want to lean in, in professionally, personally? It's not hard to put together your plan. It could be just a high level vision of where you see yourself.
Right. Oh my God, I love this. Focus on your plan and don't sweat the small stuff. They're simple, but powerful. If we put that in the forefront, I mean, anything can happen. You can become the next president. It's like, right?
Yeah.
I mean, amigas, anything can happen, and you're hearing it here at Amiga Handle Your Shit, because I want to spread this news to the whole world that we can. Si se puede. It's so true. Si se puede. Whether we're, kids of immigrants or not, you can.
Yeah. This past week, I was asked if I would be a judge reading applications for scholarship for high school students. And I had 10 applications, probably 8 of them were just like, wow, these amazing high school students. I'm like, I didn't do half that stuff. There was one application, Latina, that caught my attention. Wasn't real sophisticated, didn't have a lot of extracurriculars because she helped her mother at home and helped with her younger siblings. But yet what came through was just her passion of wanting to help others. And we looked at that application, and the letter of recommendation from her teacher said, I'm proud of her. I'm proud of her that she believed in herself in doing this. And as we reviewed it, I looked at everybody and said, because everybody was like, she has potential, right? And I thought, well, that's great that we recognize, but guys, this is me. This is me.
Yeah.
Wasn't polished, wasn't completely polished, didn't have a broad vocabulary and expressing themselves, not a lot there. So when I think of my journey and I think of, the steps of growth that I have gone through, I always tell others, if I can do it, you can do it. There is, if I can do it, you can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Sometimes we think things are far-fetched.
Yeah.
And it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. And amigas, here we are. I'm here speaking to LA Area Chamber of Commerce president. Come on, who knew that would happen? But if you dream it and believe it, you can achieve it.
Yes.
And oh my God, Maria, you were on my mind for a long time. And I'm just so honored and grateful that you're here today and sharing this message with us. And this is going to get a lot of hits. That's what I know.
Well,
I
thank you for
know.
having me. I mean, I really think that I grow every time I have these conversations, and thank you to you for putting this in front of me, because, you know, it's so wonderful to be able to have these conversations and just, you know, share a little bit of insight into, you know, don't let anything stand in your way. If I could do it, if I could get to this point, believe me, it's achievable for anyone.
Oh, I love that. Well, with that in mind, thank you so much for being here at Amiga Handle Your Shit podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.